And good morning, good day, good afternoon, whichever time you're listening. Thanks for joining the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast, where we talk about trucking risk, and trucking insurance. Today, I'm really excited to have an actual law enforcement officer. Yes, this gentleman wears a uniform and carries a gun and does a lot of commercial truck driver type work. So with that, let me welcome Johnny. Johnny, my co-host from Summit Risk Solutions. Hey, Johnny, good morning. And
hey, good morning.
Jeremy. Welcome, Jeremy. How in the heck are you?
Good. It's an early morning. I just had a couple coffees and wake me up and I'm ready to go.
Hey, I'm still sucking away on my coffee.
I'm a hot chocolate guy myself, so
yeah. No, there you go. Whatever works.
I knew that's right. I knew Farquhar was a wuss. Hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Can't take the hardcore.
Well, but it's spiked with something. I can't say.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm not allowed to, but nonetheless, there's something.
Staying home
there.
Today, I guess.
It is Friday.
All right, I usually wait till 11 o'clock, John, for that, but Hey, Jeremy, we first met at truck driver meetings. You and I were doing a series of truck driver meetings for an insured, and we went all over the province. Your employer allowed that, which is what I was kind of surprised about. Anyways, can you tell us a bit about your work and how you are trying to change truck driver behavior?
Well, I've been a police officer for 13 years now, and probably the last 6 years, I'm on a traffic unit down here near Windsor, and I found that a lot of the drivers / truck drivers were having a lot of problems on the road with different laws and fall too close and distracted driving and speeding, and they just weren't aware of a lot of the laws within our province. So I put together a presentation, that talks about many laws and rules of the road. And I started presenting to trucking companies, driving schools, anyone that wanted to better themselves, raise awareness with their laws and regulations. So, landscape companies as well. So I've been doing this for the last 6 years, going to different companies and driving schools and just kind of raising awareness on all our laws within the province.
Well, that's cool. And Johnny, you guys kind of live close together down there.
Yeah, we're not that far apart, probably just under 2 hours away. So yeah, and I met Jeremy at a Fleet Safety Council meeting. So I was at one of his presentations. That's how we originally met, and then we got together later on when I was working for one of the insurance providers I worked with. So I can very much attest to the message that Jeremy delivers, and it's very focused on education. Which is great. It's not about, I'm going to do this if you're not doing that. It's more about, here's what you need to do, guys, to be in compliance with the regulations that are out there. And, I love the fact that Jeremy is able to go right to a motor carrier facility and have a conversation.
Yeah. With approval from my management, anything that has to do with education, they're for it. You're trying to promote public safety. You're trying to reduce collisions. You're trying to reduce fatal collisions. There's been, an uptick in fatal collisions in the last 5 years, 10 years, especially with trucks, and just people that are inexperienced drivers. You might go to school to get your truck driving license, but are you an actual good truck driver or truck operator, right? So like I said, I just come into these companies and I share my knowledge, being on the traffic unit. I share my views, my points, the laws that I know, and I share them with these drivers. And, a lot of them, they're like, wow, I had no idea. This is incredible information.
Yeah, and I do know that a lot of them go, I didn't know, because it's unfortunate. But I would guess that even you don't know every law of the Highway Traffic Act.
No, because not at all.
Damn, there's a lot of them. But what I would call some of the basic ones, be off camera there. We were talking about G-class vehicles, and you mentioned the breakaway for a trailer. What did you call it again?
The breakaway cable. So a lot of the the landscape companies, for example, when they're towing a trailer, your breakaway cable should be attached to the power unit. A lot of them are attached to the chain. So if the chain pulls away from the power unit, well, then the breakaway cable is just going to go with the chain.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So little things like that.
Yeah. Well, give us an example. Most of our audience is the big trucks, tractor trailers, D-class straight trucks and stuff. Give us an example of a frequent violation that you find that truck drivers are committing out there.
Most of them are just small things. When we do, sometimes we'll do joint initiatives with MTO. We'll bring in some smaller trucks and trailers, and the biggest thing I find is just the smallest things, which is your annuals. They're not having their annuals up to date. A lot of people think that you only need an annual for your truck. Well, you need it for the truck. You need it for the trailer. The pre-trip inspections, anything over 4,500, right? You need a pre-trip inspection completed every day. Not a lot. There's a few people that they either forget or for whatever reason don't do their pre-trip. Well, that could be a charge under the Highway Traffic Act. CVOR, you need to get a CVOR as well if you're over 4,500, right? So little things like that, which aren't like a big deal. Like, their tires are great, their attachments are fine, their brake lights work, but just small things that seem to be the biggest problem right now.
Well, a lot of that would be education, I would think.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their employer should be stepping up and managing that. But I was going to say, how many times do you find that the employer doesn't even know the regulations in order to teach the employee?
Right. And, if a truck comes in for an inspection or if we're doing some sort of blitz, we would bring in the truck. And if we find there to be a problem, sometimes the employer will either could get a charge as well, because you can charge the company as well as the driver, or either or at least raise awareness to the company. Say, look, this is the problem. Moving forward, let's try to remedy that problem.
And I was going to say, ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
No, you can't use that.
Now, let me throw in a disclaimer here that the opinions stated by Jeremy are Jeremy's opinions and not that of his employer. But with that, talking about the commercial trucks, the tractor trailers, the DZ units, the bigger trucks, what do you see as the item, if you can name one thing that contributes most to a crash, what would you say contributes most to a crash? Is it some driver action? Is it maintenance? What would you say?
So the biggest reason, one of the biggest, I can't say the biggest, one of the biggest reasons in Ontario for crashes involving transport trucks and smaller DZ trucks are change lane not in safety and follow too close. Follow too close is a big reason for fatal collisions this year. For collisions, transport trucks have to maintain a distance of 60 meters, which is 200 feet from the vehicle in front of them if you're going over 60 kilometers an hour. I find, especially on the 401, where you're having a lot of issues with that 200 feet. So those are the biggest reasons, two of the biggest reasons for collisions on our highways right now.
So, and if for the listeners, you got a bonus. I asked Jeremy for one. He gave you two. Improper lane changes and following too damn close. Well,
especially, you have transport trucks. They have huge blind spots, right? So when they're traveling down the highway, you got to look again. Just when I'm a driving instructor as well. So I teach the kids, when you signal, blind spot, look over your shoulder, look again. two or three looks. Make sure nobody's in your blind spot. With trucks, it's a little harder. You're longer. You're bigger. So it's harder for them to check their blind spot, especially with motorcycles coming up. So that's one of the top reasons for them to be involved in a collision.
Well, and I was going to say I think one of the best things is educating those young kids. Those that are interacting around large commercial vehicles so they can understand what they're dealing with. You're not operating that vehicle, but you're putting yourself in harm's way because you're not giving them enough space to stay out of their safety zone. But again, at the same time, you've got a lot of new drivers coming into the marketplace, and they've never driven a big truck. They're trying to get them to understand and the educational process of the dynamics, the size of this vehicle, the stopping distance of this vehicle. And I worry that some of them still think they're driving their Toyota.
Well, I stress that too when I teach drivers that, because a lot of the young drivers aren't aware of stopping distances and aren't aware that, okay, you pass a truck and then you pull in front of them. Oh, I missed my turn, slam on the brakes. Those trucks can't stop as fast as you. They need double to triple the stopping distance as a regular motor vehicle. So when these kids are slamming on the brakes, not realizing that truck's fully loaded, 80,000 pounds, he's going to hit you from behind. Mm-hmm. So I teach that. So when you pass a truck, 6 to 10 seconds before you get into the lane in front of them, that gives you that little bit of buffer. Yep. So if you need to slam on your brakes for whatever reason, you have the time to do it, and the truck has time to brake behind you.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, ignorance contributes a lot. But, so some of the darn, and I won't swear this time, some of the darn truck drivers put themselves in precarious positions.
Yep.
To say it nicely. And as you said, following too close. And the other one, a lane change. Well, why in the heck do you have to make a lane change? And it's usually the left to right maneuver that causes the problem, because that's where the big blind spot is. Well, why were you in the middle lane if you weren't trying to pass somebody, which contributes to speed? Like, maybe they weren't technically speeding, but they're going faster than the surrounding traffic.
So I teach. So when I educate truck operators, I teach, because I get asked, which lane's the safest lane on a 3-lane highway? Mm-hmm. We all know it's the right. Well, I hope we know it's the right lane, right? If anything were to happen in front of you, like a lassie was going to jump out in front of you, and you have to get out of the way, you can use the right shoulder as a buffer. If you're stuck in the middle lane, you have cars to the left, you have cars to the right of you. Something happens in front of you, you're screwed. Okay, so you can't you can't swerve, you can't hit anybody else. So you always have that right lane. You always have the shoulder as a buffer to kind of swerve if you need to get around somebody. And as you said, Chris, you're supposed to drive in the right lane, pass in the center lane. You should never be on the left lane. Well, I should never say never. You're allowed to be on the left lane on a King's Highway. If I'm maybe a police officer's on the shoulder with a traffic stop, or something's going on where you have to get into the left lane to let the people kind of bounce in beside you. So that's the only time you're allowed in the left lane. But I see it a lot, trucks are driving in the left lane on a 3-lane highway. They know they're not supposed to, but they're trying to beat traffic because they don't have their speed limiter in, and they're doing 115, 120, right?
Wow. Well, and unfortunately, these actions, there's no doubt, because I see it when I travel, is they create aggressive driving by the vehicles around us. It's not just the commercial driver that's aggressive. It's the little cars that are around you, and now all of a sudden they start jutting in and out and making stupid maneuvers, which create more hazards.
Yeah. So, most of the truck drivers that I deal with, they understand the law. They understand even the move over law. So when I have somebody stopped, they get into the next lane and they get by me. A lot of the motor vehicle cars, passenger cars, they don't understand that. They go flying by me. So most of the truck drivers, truck operators, they're 99% of them, they follow the law. There's not really an issue. And especially, right. So a lot of questions I get during the presentations, what if a car passes me, pulls in front of me, and then I'm within that 200 feet, right? And now I'm following too close. And I say, well, that's when you back off. I don't initiate traffic stops right away. I watch to see, if a truck's following too close, I'll 10, 20, 30 seconds to see if, there's going to be some people backing off, the truck backs off, or the car pulls forward. So, I don't instantaneously, initiate a stop when I see that.
How many times do you write a ticket for that 60-meter violation? Is it frequent or is it a rarity?
Not frequent. It's I promote public safety on the highway. So I'm looking for offenses, speeding offenses, follow too close, careless. I don't specify, okay, one day I'm just going to do trucks, right? Less than more is when I do initiate stops for follow too close. Once in a while, we'll do a blitz. So sometimes the helicopter comes down, or an airplane will come down, and they have GPS coordinates that they use in their helicopter airplane, and they can see trucks that are traveling too close or within the vehicle in front of them. We actually had I think it was a couple of years ago. It was a truck on the 401 that was following so close that you couldn't follow any closer.
Wow.
A stop was initiated, and the truck driver got charged with stunt driving, because stunt driving is not only 40 or 50 over, it's actually 40 and 50 right now with the new laws that came in.
Right.
It's not only doing 50 over or 40 over, it's, someone in the trunk. If someone's sitting in the trunk, that's stunt driving. If someone's following so close you can't follow anymore, that can also be stunt driving. So this truck operator got charged with stunt driving and convicted.
Oh, nice.
So you really have to be careful when you're following another motor vehicle in front of you, that you have that buffer. And it's not like, you're 199 feet. Oh, he's within 200 feet, right? It's, we care about the ones that are really close together. And,
Sure.
You can obviously see there isn't 200 feet there.
More of that blatant disregard for the regulations.
Well, after that happened, I know that was the OPP. They shared a photograph with the public, and it made the publications. And if I can find it, I'll have spliced it in there. But
wow.
Yes, that truck driver was, to say inappropriate, is being kind, in my words.
Well, and the unfortunate aspect is that type of publicity just puts another black mark against the industry, and it's not the whole industry that's like that. There's one or two that do that, and that's really unfortunate, to see that happen. One or two apples in the bushel that spoil the whole bushel, right?
Well, thank God most of the truck drivers are damn professionals.
Yeah, not apples. Yeah.
Like I say when when I do the trucking presentations to the different companies, most of them are, we never have an issue with them. They're good drivers, and that's why these companies have people come in to give these awareness talks to try to better their company, right? So most of these companies, they're excellent companies, and we don't have to deal with them on a regular basis.
Well, and because I've been there and watched you in the interaction, the drivers love to get anybody in uniform, whether it's MTO, whether it's an enforcement officer, kind of in that more casual setting where they're not being, from a truck driver's point of view, when you pulled me over, I'm afraid, I'm upset, and I'm feeling threatened. So when we get you into a truck driver meeting where we know there's no possibility of a ticket, I can ask some really dumb questions and get the right answers.
The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. I've been asked many, many questions of many different varieties, and I'm happy to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll lie to you. You won't know the difference anyway. I am happy to answer the questions. I will answer them all day. It's more like having a conversation. Chris, I've heard you talk. You've heard me talk. it's more like having a conversation with these truck operators. I share my experience, but it's, back and forth, and it's not like you must do this. It's just a conversation. I teach what I know. They have questions. They ask me, and it's just a back and forth.
Yeah. It's
Help,
awesome.
help them to understand that common sense approach, possibly.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, it's just some of the moves that a small number of truck drivers make are just mind blowing to me. Can you give me either a funny or a head shaking example of what you've seen? Quote, and I don't know, I won't say professional truck driver. You've seen a semi truck operator do?
Well, I'll give you two. So
bonus.
So our first one, we were doing a blitz at the. Sometimes we'll be at the MTO scales along the 401. So sometimes we'll do a joint forces initiative with MTO. And I remember we had a transport truck come in, and the driver was watching a movie on his dash. So he had his iPhone or his phone, and it was sitting where the speedometer is on his dashboard. He was watching a movie, and as he pulled up, the movie was paused. So it was like he unaware of the laws, right? Unaware that you can't watch a movie while you're driving. Pulls up, and we're talking to him, and then the MTO officer's like, "You're watching a movie. Are you watching a movie or your iPhone?" He goes, "Oh, I got it on pause right now. Once I get back on the highway, I'll start it again." Continue watching. I'm like, okay, yeah, we need to pull you in. And the second one is another. It was on one of our highways down outside of Windsor, and it was a male driver, not a transporter, but it was like a truck and trailer. I think he was a landscaper or something. And I initiated a stop on him because the driver was speeding. So, it was 35 over, like it was 115 and an 80. So I initiated a stop, and I walked up to the driver, and I could hear it sounded like the news playing. So as I walked up, I saw this gentleman. He had a big flat screen TV stuck on his dashboard, and he was literally watching the news as he was driving down the road. He was going to work. So I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm catching up on the news. I missed it having my morning coffee." So I said, "You can't do that." So this gentleman received a ticket for drive while screen visible to driver, I believe, which is a $615 ticket.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what his personal insurance company might say, what the trucking insurance company might say.
Yep.
Ay.
Oh my God! That's severe.
Again, this is a safety issue because
okay,
you're watching the news. Okay, this is a really good part, and you don't see the car that's had to stop in front of you because you're watching the news, and then you hit them from behind. That's when the problems start. I tell the truck operators, I'm like, if you're driving down the road and you hit somebody, and Chris, you've heard this before, you're driving down the road, you hit somebody, if they're not injured, okay, here you might get your ticket, you might get your careless driving or your fall too close. If you hit that person and they're seriously hurt or die, now we look at more serious charges. What were you doing that caused this person to be seriously hurt or die? So now you could face careless driving cause death, $50,000 fine. You could face dangerous drive cause death, which is criminal. Now you're looking at jail or fine. So you really have to be careful, because dangerous driving is doing something in your vehicle that you ought to have known you shouldn't have been doing. You shouldn't have been speeding. You shouldn't have been on your cell phone. Maybe you shouldn't have been drinking water that caused you to get into an accident. Doing something you ought to have known you shouldn't have been doing. Someone dies because of this collision, you could face some serious charges.
Yeah.
the mood here.
There,
But
there- there's a great YouTube video out there put out by the Minnesota State Police called 8 Seconds. And it's just exactly what you're talking about. The driver was looking down at his phone for a full 8 seconds. Um, Anybody that wonders how long 8 seconds is, well, in the rodeos, you got to stay on the bull for 8 seconds. In this case, he's looking down at his phone for 8 seconds. And when he looks up, right into the back of a vehicle, killed that man in that vehicle, and changed that family's life and changed his own because he ended up going to jail. I think it helped put some reality into it. But I'm dumbfounded that people can't seem to get the message all the time that you're sending out.
well, part of my presentation, I have a slide where it's a picture or a video of a little kid, a young child, and I say, "Do you want to tell his mom you only look down for 2 seconds?"
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to do that, especially being on traffic and all my partners on the highways, right?
Yeah.
I've had to go to the collision scene and deal with somebody seriously hurt or died, but then I have to go tell their loved ones or their parents that they're not coming home. And that's the worst part, because you can imagine how that would work out. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I teach.
Mm-hmm.
I give these presentations so I can raise awareness, because I don't want to have to go to one of your accident scenes or their accident scenes and deal with them deceased, and then go tell their mom, dad, wife, husband that they're not coming home.
Yeah.
And just, it's awful. Hey, we're recording this in November. Not sure exactly when it's going to come out. Obviously, well, I'm hoping it'll be in December. But Jeremy, can you give truck drivers a winter safe driving tip? What do you think? Well, we're heading into winter. You're going to see the stuff.
Yes.
Damn, you're in Windsor in the snow belt.
Well, we don't get as much snow. They always call us the Bahamas of Canada, because we're pretty far south. It's funny, because when I worked in Dutton, I used to be in Elgin County. The snow belt would come down kind of along like just east of Dutton before London, and you could see the snow, the actual line on the 401. And anything east in London was all snow, and anything west was sunny. So it's kind of split there.
Yeah.
I get a lot of fully loaded trucks that think they can do 105 in the snow because they're fully loaded. They got all their tires spinning. They're ready to go. But it doesn't matter how heavy you are. If you make that false move, or if there's snow on the road, your tire doesn't have traction on the actual pavement, you're going to lose control. Regardless if you have 18 wheels going or however many wheels you got going, you're going to lose control. And one false move, and you're going to end up in a ditch. In the wintertime, there is many vehicles in the ditch due to inexperienced drivers, unaware that you have to slow down to match the road conditions. Even trucks, especially empty, unloaded trucks, their back end starts spinning, and they're in the ditch in 2 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah, the empty trucks, bobtail units. I can't believe sometimes when I see a tractor bobtailing at the speeds, whether it's just, anyways, mind blowing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. That's why you have no hair, Chris.
I pulled it all out. It's just,
Yes, exactly. Mine's from banging it against the wall.
And Jeremy there, he's got such a great job that he's got a full head of hair. Hell, he's got no stress.
It's just a Snapchat filter. I'm actually bald, but I put the
I like it. It works good
to give this presentation.
I'd love to have that tip.
Jeremy, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I've listened to you many times, Chris, and you're a great wealth of knowledge. And I appreciate what you do. And John, I've talked to you before. Keep up the good work, and you guys are promoting public safety, giving your talks as well. So thank you.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate your time. A real law enforcement officer that does commercial, does the trucks out there for us. All right. That's it for this week. I really appreciate your time. If you've made it all the way to the end here, click like and subscribe. And maybe you want to leave us a comment what you think about the show, and also who would you like to see on the show. Give us some suggestions. Love to hear back from you. Johnny or I will answer you in person. All right, that's it for this week. The Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast is out.